I've officially maxed out my registered retirement savings plan for the very first time. This is actually the third investment account that I've maxed out. I've already maxed out my TFSA, my FHSA, and now my RRSP, and I want to go over how I've made that happen. But first, as a quick refresher or overview, the RRSP is one of the registered investment accounts that we have in Canada. It's been around since 1957, so for quite a long time now, and it was created by the Canadian government to encourage people to save for retirement. Now, the way that they actually encourage people to use it is by offering tax benefits for you to contribute money to your own future retirement. Now, with the RRSP specifically, it's a tax-deferred account, so that's the tax benefit. Here's how it works. The RRSP is an investment account that you open up, and then when you actually contribute money into your RRSP, so you transfer it from your checking or savings account into this investment account, you then have the option to reduce your taxable income in the year that you contributed money into your RRSP. To explain that part very clearly, if you had a $70,000 income in 2024 and you contributed $10,000 to your RRSP in 2024, then when you go to file your 2024 tax return, you can actually change or bring down your taxable income to $60,000 instead. When you do this, you're lowering the amount of taxes that you have to pay, so you're saving money in the short term. But remember that I said it's a tax-deferred account, so even though you don't have to pay taxes on that money now, you will in the future when you take money out of your RRSP. So you can open up an RRSP, put money inside of the account, and ideally purchase investments with that money, then let your money grow tax-free for many, many years, and one day take money out of your RRSP to actually fund your daily life in retirement. At that point, when you withdraw money out of your RRSP, what you withdraw is added to your taxable income for that year. So let's think of our previous example in reverse. If you're retired and let's say no longer making any income anymore, but you take $10,000 out of your RRSP, when you go to file your tax return for that year, your taxable income would be $10,000. The other thing that I want to point out right now is that the RRSP, because it offers this tax benefit that can help you save money overall, the RRSP has a contribution limit. Now, it's a little bit different than some of the other tax-advantaged investment accounts that we have in Canada. So instead of a set limit, it's actually a percentage of your income. So your annual RRSP contribution limit is 18% of your income for that year, up to a set maximum amount. So for example, if I made $70,000 in 2024, then I would have another $12,600 of contribution room added into my RRSP. Now, the maximum amount in 2024 was $32,490. So if you had a really high salary, like $190,000 a year, then 18% of that would be $34,200. But that's above that maximum set limit, right? So you'd actually still only have $32,490 of contribution room added. Now, something that's important to mention is that you don't actually have to use the yearly RRSP contribution room that you get right away. RRSP contribution room grows every year. That means that even though my RRSP contribution room started building many years ago, more specifically when I started earning an income and filing my taxes, I didn't actually open up and start contributing to my RRSP until last year in 2024. So that means I had many years worth of contribution room additions to work on filling up. Now, the reason that I didn't open up my RRSP until last year was because I was focused on maxing out my TFSA or my tax-free savings account first. By the way, when I say maxing out, I mean hitting that maximum overall contribution limit. So all of those annual amounts added up for one big total. Now, I started investing inside of my TFSA back in 2018, so just before I turned 22 years old, and then I consistently contributed money into that account all the way until I did max it out in February of 2024, so just over a year ago now. And at that point, I couldn't contribute any more money, at least for the rest of that year. More on that later. Now, the reason that I chose to invest inside of my TFSA first is because it made the most sense for me. Now, in general, my number one financial priority is investing as much money as possible now while I'm young for my future retirement so my money has as much time as possible to grow and compound. And I chose the TFSA to invest in first because the TFSA is a very flexible account. There's not that many rules or stipulations around when you can start taking money out of the account, and also your money grows completely tax-free. So what that means is that when you do eventually take money out of your TFSA in the future, you don't have to pay any taxes on your money at that time. Now, on top of that, the RRSP is actually more beneficial while you're in your higher income earning years, and I'm going to explain more about what I mean by that in a second. But with that in mind, and also considering that I've been in my more junior working years over the past several years, it just made more sense for me to prioritize my TFSA first, so that's what I did. Then once my TFSA was maxed out, I actually opened up an FHSA next. Now, the FHSA is the newest tax-advantaged investment account that we have in Canada. It actually just opened up in 2023, and it also combines the benefits of both the TFSA and the RRSP. With the FHSA, your money grows tax-free just like the TFSA, but you can also reduce your taxable income just like you can with the RRSP without having to pay taxes on that money in the future. Like I said, it's fully tax-free. Now, the one thing to keep in mind is that you can actually only use the money that's inside of this account towards the purchase of your first home. So for Dennis and I, we do plan on purchasing a home for us to live in one day, and you can have this account for up to 15 years, so I decided that it did make sense for me to open it up next and take advantage of those tax benefits. The other thing I want to mention really quick is, like I said, you can only have an FHSA for up to 15 years once you open one, but you can roll those funds over into an RSP if you don't use them, so that's something to keep in mind too. Now, the FHSA has a yearly contribution limit of $8,000, so once I opened up an FHSA last year, it took me about 4 months to max it out since I invest $2,000 a month, so I had maxed it out by the summer. Now, after that happened, I finally decided to open up an RRSP because it was the last tax-advantaged investment account that I had left and hadn't used yet. Now, if you're wondering how I opened my RRSP for the first time last summer, and now I'm saying that I've maxed it out about 9 months later, let me explain. Like I said before, my RRSP has been building up contribution room since I started earning an income and filing my taxes. So since then, 18% of the income that was stated on my tax return each year has been added to my RSP contribution room on an annual basis. Now, as of this year, according to my CRA My account, I have a maximum contribution limit of $61,985 for my RRSP. Now, I will say that I did my own calculation, and it definitely doesn't quite line up with what the CRA My account says my contribution limit should be, so I'm gonna have to investigate that a little bit further at some point. The numbers are somewhat close, the amounts, but definitely not exactly, and I can't figure out why. So more to look into on that front at some point, but for now, I'm just gonna go with what the CRA says my contribution limit is. Now, keep in mind that this contribution limit is specific to me personally. It's not like the TFSA where, for the most part, anyone who was born in 1996 and has been in Canada for their whole life has a maximum contribution limit of $76,500, at least for the most part. In this case, with the RSP, it's personal to you and you alone. So with that being said, for me, I have $61,985 that I could fill up. Now, when I first opened up my RSP, I was actually able to contribute $32,000 right off the bat. Now, that money came from a few places. One was money that I had set aside in a savings account that came specifically from an end-of-year bonus that Dennis and I had paid ourselves out at the end of the past year, so the year right before that. And then some other money came from money that I received from my grandpa. So kind of just based on timing and the fact that I decided that I wanted to invest a chunk of my savings, I was able to make that big lump sum contribution to my RSP right away. After that, I continued to contribute $2,000 a month for the rest of 2024. So that was August, September, October, November, and December. So another $10,000 that I was able to contribute. So that means that there was a total of $42,000 that I contributed to my RSP throughout 2024, or by the end of 2024. I've also been able to contribute $2,000 a month in February, March, and April of this year, so in 2025, bringing me up to a total of $48,000 contributed to my RRSP. Now, as a quick side note, I actually took a break from contributing to my RRSP at the beginning of the year to prioritize remaxing out my TFSA and FHSA first. Basically, every year, you gain additional contribution room in all of your registered investment accounts. So my TFSA gained an additional $7,000 in contribution room. Now that's a set or standard amount. So everyone who's eligible for TFSA gained an additional $7,000 in contribution room as of January 1st, 2025. My FHSA also gained $8,000 in contribution room at the beginning of this year. That's also a set or standard amount. So everyone who's opened up an FHSA gained an additional $8,000 in 2025. I was luckily able to remax out both of those accounts in January because we had paid ourselves out another year-end bonus of $15,000, which meant that I have just enough, $7,000 and $8,000, to max out both of those accounts in January. Now, I also had my typical monthly contribution of $2,000 a month for January that I was able to keep to top up my savings accounts instead. Now, all of that means that by February 1st, I was able to start prioritizing my RSP again. And my plan was to contribute $2,000 a month into my RSP for the rest of 2025. But my plans ended up changing. Now, the reason that my plans ended up changing was because of tax season. Let me explain. When I filed my taxes at the beginning of March of this year, it's the first time that I ever had the option to reduce my taxable income due to the contributions that I'd made to my registered investment accounts. Remember how I said that both the FHSA and the RRSP can be used to reduce your taxable income? Well, I contributed $8,000 to my FHSA and $44,000 to my RRSP during the 2024 tax period specifically. Now, to make that really clear, I contributed $8,000 to my FHSA between January and December of 2024 and I contributed $44,000 to my RRSP between March of 2024 and February of 2025. So for the RRSP specifically, the tax year doesn't line up with our calendar year. Instead, it lines up with when we file our taxes. So I just wanted to make sure I pointed that out so that you knew that in case you hadn't seen that before. So for me, that was over $50,000 that I could use to reduce my taxable income. Now at this point, I had 3 different options. One was to claim the entire amount and reduce my taxable income as much as possible. 2, claim part of the amount and partially reduce my taxable income. Or 3, carry the entire amount forward and not reduce my taxable income at all. So like I mentioned earlier, the RRSP can be used to reduce your taxable income, but you don't actually have to claim those deductions in the year that you added money into your RRSP. You can instead carry forward your RRSP contributions and claim them in a future year if you want to. Now, the main benefit here, or reason why you might want to do that, is because your RRSP is actually most beneficial to you in your highest income earning years. Here's the short story on why that is. Remember how your RRSP is tax deferred, meaning that you'll be able to reduce your taxable income and save some money on taxes over the short term, but you'll eventually pay taxes on that money when you go to take money out of your RRSP in the future and it's added to your taxable income for that year? Well, what that means is that you actually benefit the most from your RRSP if you reduce your taxable income in the years where your income is higher than it will be in the future when you retire. For example, if you make $70,000 and you contribute $10,000 to your RRSP, but then you end up withdrawing $10,000 from your RRSP when you're still making $70,000 or more, you actually don't save any money on your taxes at all. But if you make $70,000 and contribute $10,000 to your RRSP, and then you withdraw $10,000 from your RRSP when you're making $0 per year, then you actually did benefit from the account because you paid less money in taxes over the course of your lifetime. So that's why, from a high level, you might want to not reduce your taxable income even if you did contribute money to your RRSP. So in theory, I could hold off on claiming these deductions until my income is higher than $70,000 per year, which it hopefully will be at some point in the future, right? But there's another way of looking at this. The other way of looking at it is that if I hold off on reducing my taxable income until my income is potentially higher in the future, then I'm potentially missing out on the compound interest between now and that future time. Let me break that down. So option number 3 is that I carry forward the entire amount and not reduce my taxable income at all. So that would mean that I hold off on reducing my taxable income, meaning that I wouldn't receive a big tax refund, and instead I have that potential tax refund sitting there waiting for me in the future. During that time, the money isn't growing, it's just sitting there. Now, the pro here is that I can benefit more from my tax deduction when my income's higher in the future, but option number 1 was that I claim the entire amount and reduce my taxable income as much as possible. So I claim the entire amount of over $50,000 and receive a big tax refund now. Now, when I went through this process while filing my taxes this year, I realized that I'd receive about a $12,500 tax refund. So that's $12,500 that I'd receive right now. The pro here is that I can use this money, the $12,500, to reinvest back in the stock market and have this money invested as soon as possible and growing over time. Now, if I took that approach, I'm not benefiting from reducing my taxable income as much as possible. At least if my income ever goes up, then I'm not. But I am benefiting from having my money invested as soon as possible. Now, we've talked about this concept a lot in past videos. The earlier you have your money invested, the more time your money has to benefit from compound interest. Now, compound interest is when your money's growing on top of itself or on top of its own growth. And the earlier you start investing, the more time you have to benefit from compound interest. It's the entire reason why Dennis and I are focused on investing as much as possible, as early as possible now when we're young. So I decided that based on this preliminary research that we did, it made the most sense for me to claim the entire amount, reduce my taxable income as much as possible, and receive that $12,500 tax refund now, which is exactly what I did. I received a direct deposit of about $12,500, and I'm investing the majority of that money. I am putting about $2,000 or so into my high interest savings account to top that up instead, but over $10,000 is going directly to my investments. Now, up until this point, I'd contributed a total of $48,000 to my RRSP, and my max contribution limit is $61,985. Now that left me with $13,985 left to contribute, and like I just said, I'm allocating over $10,000 of my tax refund towards my investments in this account specifically, which will bring me up to over $58,000 contributed and somewhere around $3,985 left to contribute. So if you're following the math, that means that I've almost maxed out my RRSP. I technically still have 2 more months of contributions to make since I put $2,000 into my investment account on a monthly basis. That means that yes, I'm technically a little bit premature in making this video, but now that I know that I'll be maxing out my RRSP in just a matter of weeks, I really wanted to get this video out for you guys, especially while it's still timely during tax season. I feel like there's a lot of really interesting information and things that I learned and wanted to share about reducing my taxable income during tax season and while filing my taxes. So what's next? Obviously, I'm going to continue to contribute to my RRSP in May and June until it's officially maxed out. And then in June, I'll be opening up a taxable investment account for the very first time so that I can continue to invest my money for the rest of this year. That means that by the end of 2025, I should have maxed out all 3 of my registered investment accounts, so my TFSA, FHSA, and RRSP, and I've also contributed about $12,000 into a taxable investment account too. Then in January of 2026, I'll go back to remaxing out those accounts, so the TFSA, FHSA, and RRSP in that order. Now in a few weeks, we're going to be sharing another video where I break down my taxable investment account investing strategy, so what specific investments I'm going to be buying inside of this account and all of those details, and what I'll just be buying inside of my non-registered account in general. So keep an eye out for that one. We're also going to be breaking down the difference between tax advantage and taxable accounts in that video, and everything that you need to know and be aware of when you're making the transition. We're also going to be doing another video that's more of a deep dive analysis on how you can decide if you should claim your RRSP and FHSA deductions in the year that you contribute, or if you should carry them forward. Keep in mind there was that second option that I had, right? So claiming part of the amount and partially reducing my taxable income. So we'll break down if and when that would make more sense and why. I also wanted to remind you guys to check out Simple Investing for Canadians. It's the new investing course that Dennis and I launched. And if you're still here at the end of this video, it means that it's definitely something that could be of interest to you. There's so much information included in the course itself, and there's the community as well where you can ask us questions and discuss these different topics and decisions with us directly. So if you're interested, make sure you check it out at the link on screen or in the description box below and ask us any questions that you have about it too. And with that, that's a wrap on this video. I really hope that you guys enjoyed it. Make sure that you subscribe if you are not already subscribed so that you don't miss out on those upcoming videos, and make sure that you check out this video next.